Welcome to the Corner Store Talk podcast. My name is Billy Filmer. I'm your host. Today's guest, we have Nicole Vanterpool. So you just introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Nicole Vanterpool, from New York. And what else would you like me? Excuse the very loud sirens. I don't know if you can hear them, but apparently I don't know what's happening. There are a bunch of sirens. But yeah, what else do you want me to say as part of my introduction? Aside from my name, born and raised in the Bronx.
Boogie down, yes, sir.
Yes.
So give your job title from Children Aid and BuildOn.
Yeah.
What you did.
So currently I am the U.S. Immersion Manager for the New York and Connecticut regions at BuildOn. And previously, I worked for Children's Aid for about 8 years as my final position there was as a program manager for the vulnerable youth program with Children's Aid.
So I know Nicole for about maybe it's been 3-4 years.
Maybe longer. I think
3.
I think I met you in 2016.
Was it 11th grade? I think I was in 11th grade.
We're in 11th grade. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 3 to 4 years. So I started off in Children Aid as a summer youth participant.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the fall they offered a 25-week program, paid program, where we learned different work readiness skills. And also we did JP Morgan during that. And then towards the end we had to do a group presentation to become facilitators for the summer. And so kind of like entered Children Aid, and I've been with Children Aid for about 3 to 4 years, 2 to 3 years in the summer. So I learned what most the participants learn, how to do resumes, how to goal set, and public speaking. So what are 2 work readiness skills you think is important for urban youth to have?
I think 2 of the most important skills for youth coming from like the neighborhoods that we come from, coming from more urban or city neighborhoods. The first would be networking, right? I think one of the legs up that youth who are a lot more privileged, something they have is their network. That's the largest thing that they have to depend on. And I think for us, we aren't born or handed, these opportunities or just these, these what do I want to call it? Like just these people, these groups of people that we have access to, right? And so I think one of the biggest things is learning to build your network and just putting yourself out there and taking advantage of every opportunity available to you. So that would be the first thing. The second thing I would say that's really important to have in terms of work readiness skills would be, I think knowing how to write your resume is a very big thing, because it's the first thing employers see when you're coming across their table is your resume. And so a resume that one gets across your experience and who you are is very key. And so I definitely think that those are the 2 things I think that youth should have.
Can you also talk a little bit about public speaking, why that's important too?
Yes. So public speaking is very important. And so for me, I kind of tie public speaking and networking into stand in front of people and discuss your thoughts, or even just discuss anything, then you're not going to get your point across. You're not going to make the change that you want to make, you're not going to be able to do much of anything. Public speaking is scary. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I end up having to do a lot because of the work that I do. Even for you, Billy, public speaking was a big thing that we worked on when you were at Children's Aid. Pretty much all the time, we used to have all different types of activities that we would do with you all just to get y'all comfortable with not only speaking to each other, right, but also speaking to adults, speaking to complete strangers. Because as soon as you step out into the real world, right, you're going to have to use your voice in order to advocate for yourself, in order to get the things that you need. Yeah, so one of the things that we had discussed was making sure that you all knew how to dress for certain settings. Being that toward the middle of your 25-week program, you all would be going to JP Morgan Chase for a mentorship program. It was important that you knew, like, okay, you're going into a corporate setting, how you dress. And I think one of the important things for me in having you all dress professionally was that when I was growing up, there wasn't ever anybody who wore a suit. No one wore a tie, no one wore slacks or a button-down shirt, right? I rarely saw that. And the running joke has always been, especially where I come from, if you see someone in a suit, they must be going to court, right? They must be trying to fight some charge or whatever. And I definitely wanted to break that stigma, right? That Black men and Black women and people of color can be dressed professionally and be going somewhere other than a courtroom. And so it was really important for you all to be able to look at yourselves and be able to say, I can look just as professional and just as put together as the next person. And so just wanting to have you all be able to look at yourselves just differently. And so it was important for me and for the team that you all dress professional. And it wasn't hard, even though y'all gave us a fight at every turn, especially Billy. He would always be like, but miss, they're black pants with a hole in his knee. So, it was definitely a fight, and we definitely gave you all some leeway at times. But it was simple, a pair of slacks, a button-down shirt, or a tie or a collar shirt, polo.
I got the hang of it. I just started wearing khakis all the time.
Right, and it's not. It really isn't. It really isn't hard. But yeah, just I think the way you dress in certain places is kind of the same way when we code switch, right? It definitely plays a very large part. And I've always been of the mind that shouldn't, how we look and how we dress should not dictate how other people treat us and respect us. But unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, right? Where respectability politics is a very big thing, right? Where you went to school at, how much money you make, how you dress, all play a role in how society will treat you. And so while we try to break down those barriers and those stereotypes, sometimes we got to play the role.
So we're going to talk about Summer Youth a little bit. But other than Summer Youth and Work, Learn, Grow, what other programs that Children Aid offered that was beneficial to the urban community? I know like GED was one of those more. I know GED was one program they offered.
Yes. So I think some of the great programs, Children's Aid does a really great job at making sure that youth are connected to the services that they need. And one of, I think, the greatest, it's not necessarily a program, but it's a center within Children's Aid. And I think one of the greatest assets and places that Children's Aid has put in place is their Next Generation Center. In the Bronx, yes, yeah. Right on Boulevard. And I think it's the greatest place, right? Youth who may not have done well in school or have left school for any number of reasons have an opportunity to go to Next Generation Center if they want to get their GED. Right. And many of them get their GEDs and go on to college or go on to work really well-paying jobs or go on to do really great things. I also think Next Generation just does it right in terms of working with youth. They provide case management. They have social workers. Tons of opportunities, internship opportunities. If you want to learn how to be a chef, they have a kitchen with a chef who literally stays there all day. He's a chef and a social worker who stays there all day, just hanging around, teaching youth how to cook meals and like talking and hanging out with them. If you want to be a musician, you want to be a rapper, you want to be a singer, Next Generation Center has a recording studio.
Yeah,
and their center's assistant director will literally chill with you, help you write your songs and get you into that studio and help you produce your music. And so I think it's a really great place and a place that's definitely needed. And I think more places like Next Generation Center are needed in neighborhoods across this country because it gives youth a place to go, right? It gives them a place to, one, know that they're always going to have a solid meal because Next Generation Center provides breakfast, lunch, and dinner to its youth. They know they'll always have a meal. They know that they'll always have someone to speak to. They have social workers, case managers, people who will help you with your housing, your helping you gain access to any kind of resources in the city that you need, just a full gamut of things. And I just think it's absolutely incredible, the work that's being done at Next Generation Center. So I would definitely say that is one of the programs that Children's Aid offers that really does it right.
Yep. So last summer we worked out of Children's Aid. We worked out of the Bronx Next Gen Center. Mm-hmm. So we got to, well, me personally, we got to see like the good work that the center has offered. One good thing about the center, they open you with open arms.
Yes.
That's one thing I could give a shout out to them. They welcome you. Like they treat you like family.
Yes, and that was really important for us last summer, especially for our team, right? Because we haven't spoken about this yet, but SYEP, Summer Youth Employment, has begun this special initiative called Vulnerable Youth, right? And so it allows access and a guaranteed job for youth in the foster care system, youth experiencing homelessness, youth who might have a criminal record, any number of things. And so that was, what I was in charge of. And our team worked out of the Next Generation Center, and we got no support from like our head office, like our main director or whoever. We got zero support. We were out there in the Bronx fending for ourselves with this tiny team. We were originally only supposed to have about 200 youth and ended up with over 600.
600?
610 to be exact. Ended up with over 600, and we were a tiny team of 11 people dealing with 600 youth and no support. And what was great about Next Gen Center specifically, what's his name? And it just slipped my mind. What was his name? The assistant director.
Wendell.
Yes, specifically Wendell. The moment we showed up at Next Gen, he was like, I'm here. What's up? Like what do y'all need? Like anything. You need space. Y'all need supplies. Y'all need X, Y, and Z. He was there, open arms. Y'all hungry? Like everything. And so that support that the center showed us really made a difference in how successful we were that summer, because we were the only program to, one, pass our our audit without having to make any corrections. We were a program that was only in its first year. We were only in its first year,
The
right?
pilot program.
Right. The very first time that Children's Aid is receiving this contract from the city. And, you know, we were only supposed to have 200 kids, but we recruited so well. We reached out to different organizations across the city and accepted their youth and ended up with 610 youth in the foster care system, youth experiencing homelessness, youth experiencing any number of hardships who had guaranteed jobs. That's 610 youth. And it was absolutely amazing. Of course, it came with its difficulties, and not everything was 100% great, but we were successful and we did a real kick-ass job. So
shout out to our team.
For real, our tiny team. It was.
We had Tuesday.
Hard.
We had Alexa.
Tuesday, Alexa,
Linda, Liz, Joelle.
Yep.
Now
Jason.
just a facilitating team, and then we had the about 2 to 3 doing
monitoring.
Jason.
Yep. What was great about this
Ashley
was it, like, no matter what your position was, everybody stepped in to help everybody. Like when we had to audit over 600 files, your half of the team, the facilitation team, stepped right in and was like, how can we help? How can we do this? Or do you need help going to your work sites, to the site monitors, you know, different things like that. And I definitely missed the team that I was able to build. It was definitely a rock star team and a team that I would rehire anywhere that I go, because I know no matter what, like, y'all are gonna be solid, and that's what I love.
Shout out to Team Luminescence Youth.
Yes.
That was the name that the participants came up with. Luminescent, it meant shine bright.
Yep.
So they're youth, and what they're going to do is shine bright, as they should. So as
love it.
Like last summer, it was real fun. I missed it. We did a lot of different activities, and yeah, we did a lot of activities. We went out. We gave out. We bought metal straws.
Actually, that's what I'm using right now. My straw.
Yep. We bought metal straws, and the participants, they wrote like little notes, like how to save the environment, yada yada.
Yeah.
And we went out to like Crotona Park, and we gave out the metal straw. It was just like
save up the park.
Yeah. So we did a lot of fun things within them. And Team Luminescence, I miss y'all.
Real. Yeah.
So that brings us right into summer youth. Why do you think it's important that we have summer youth?
I think one of the things to know in how summer youth employment program came about in the beginning anyway, over 20 years ago, in New York City, a lot of times once school let out, there was nowhere for youth to go, right? All after school programs were over. If you weren't in summer school, there was nothing for you to do. And getting into summer camps is hard because if you have 5 million kids in New York City, summer camp's not available for everyone. Not every parent can pay for summer camp. And so that meant that there were a lot of youth hanging out in the streets, right? Getting into trouble, possibly losing their lives, all sorts of things. And so New York City wanted to find a way to get its youth involved in something. And they created the Summer Youth Employment Program, which allows youth to be employed in any number of locations across the city to work for the summer and earn an income that they can save, they can help their families, any number of things. And so I think in knowing that, it tells you why summer youth is very important, because I think it's important, one, for youth or anyone to just have productive things to do, and something that they can, create memories from, but also something they can use to build skills, very valuable skills, that they're going to need in the future. For summer youth and employment programs, youth learn skills such as resume writing, interview skills. They learn customer service, how to work with kids. They learn sales. They learn all sorts of skills that are very easily transferable in whether in school, out of school, at another job, in college, anywhere. And so I think it's really important that you've had that, especially going back to the fact that kids who don't look like us, right? Kids who come from much wealthier backgrounds and families, they already have these skills, right? They already have people, or I shouldn't make the assumption, but 9 times out of 10, they already have people teaching them these skills, right? These skills are already being ingrained in them. And for us, that's not something that's being ingrained in us, right? From a very early age, we're just taught to survive, and not necessarily to thrive, right? And so I think it's important that we have programs like SYEP that help youth do that and teach them those skills to thrive. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
What is one good memory you have from Children Aid? So
one good memory. Oh, there's so many memories. I think one good memory, I don't know. Oh my gosh. There's so many. I absolutely love working at Children's Aid. I think one of my favorite memories is every year after Work Learn Grow, I would host like a little party for you all. And those were always my favorite times, really because it was a moment to celebrate the work that you had all accomplished. But it was always my favorite time because it was time for me. It was always a moment where I would look out at you all after this 25-week program and literally physically, emotionally, and mentally see the growth that you had all made over the course of 25 weeks. And I would just be so impressed and so just like overjoyed, and my heart would be so full just watching you all interact with each other, and whether you knew it or not, you utilizing the skills that you had been learning over those weeks. And it was always just an amazing moment for me to witness, just watching all of your growth. I don't necessarily have one favorite moment. I just feel so much pressure trying to pick one. So I'm just gonna pick that as my moment because I really really enjoyed my job as a program manager, especially during Work Learn Grow. SYEP was great, love SYEP, but Work Learn Grow was always my favorite program. And the work that I got to do in Work Learn Grow with you all was always like the most fulfilling time ever. So that's my favorite.
So now we could talk about your work and BuildOn.
Yes.
Just get them your full job title once again so they could.
Yes. So I am a U.S. Immersion Manager for the New York and Connecticut regions. And it sounds like a very fancy title because people are like, ooh, immersions, what's it mean? Really, it's not fancy. But just background on BuildOn. BuildOn is an organization whose main focus is working to break cycles of poverty through service and education. So I, as a immersion manager, I just started in February, so I haven't even hit the 6-month mark yet. And it's really great. One of the things for me about going to an organization like BuildOn was that it most aligned with who I am as a person and with what my values are. Billy, you know this about me. I'm very big on serving the community, very big on education. Those two things are the biggest things for me. And of course, breaking cycles of poverty and making sure that like we're making hoods that look like ours better, right? We're making sure that people, like, I all my life growing up, right? People have always told me, when you grow up and you go to college, you need to make sure like you leave the Bronx. I mean, I live in Harlem now, but like you need to make sure you leave and don't come back. Like, don't worry. And I never believed in that, right? I believe like all my life I'm going to live in the hood. There's nobody can take me out of the hood. And I say that because I think it's important to destigmatize the way our neighborhoods are looked at, but to also shine a light on our neighborhoods because they're magical. Like, no matter how many frustrations we have with them, nothing can ever beat the feeling, the pulse, the culture, the life, like just the life that's in our neighborhoods. And so BuildOn does a really great job at helping youth highlight their neighborhoods, highlight their communities, and really shine a light on their communities, and they're not focused on taking youth out of their communities and showing them something better, right? As a lot of organizations try to do or tend to do. And so my role as an immersion manager, I work in, it's really hard to explain, but work with our corporate partners and our youth to come together. So basically our corporate partners, it's a lot like JP Morgan, right? How you all would go to JP Morgan and do things. It's the other way around. They come to our kids. Yes, and they work in our kids' neighborhoods. They get to know more about our youth's neighborhoods, and they basically spend their time making sure that like they understand where our youth are coming from and working side by side with them. And so my work is a mix of programming with high school students and our corporate partners, a mix of marketing, and a mix of development. So fundraising money that goes directly to our programs, working with our partners to host different events, or programming for the youth. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the youth in our program, again, it's a service-oriented organization. And so they do a lot of community service. And once they have a certain number of hours of community service, they actually get to go on Trek, which is an opportunity for them to go to either Senegal, Haiti, couple other places to help build, to one, immerse themselves in that culture. So a lot of like what our corporate partners do with the students then go and do do the same thing somewhere globally. So they live with the host family, and they learn all about the culture, and they help build a school in that community. Right? But they build the school alongside the community. So it's not like other organizations that just go and build a school and bye-bye, right? No, the community comes together and they literally stand side by side, brick by brick, right? With community members building these schools, so that youth have better access to education. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of it, I guess. It's real hard to explain, but it's a fun job. I really enjoy it. COVID has definitely thrown a wrench in things, but I do enjoy it, getting to know the students that we work with, and we've been doing a lot of things virtually. So, for instance, our virtual partnership program is something that we've done where our youth work with our corporate partners from Synchrony Financial, Rodan and Fields, and Ernst & Young, I believe, in a 6-week mentorship program where they work to build a virtual service project together. And it was really great. I really loved seeing them collaborate and work together and learn from each other. So yeah. It's pretty cool.
It don't sound dope. So coming towards the end, what is 3 goals that you have for the remainder of 2020?
3 goals that I have for the remainder of 2020. Oof. The first one is to stay sane. That's the honest truth. Staying sane through COVID and just trying to stay safe has been a little bit difficult, trying to navigate this world that we're living in right now. My second goal is to just dive in deeper with the work that I'm doing at BuildOn and really build more relationships with our students and our partners and my colleagues. I'm really looking forward to growing in this position. And then my third goal is to actually get back with Children's Aid. So before COVID, I'd left Children's Aid, but then they hired me back as a consultant to help improve programming. And so I would love to get back into doing that again whenever programs relaunch and we're able to actually do things. So yeah, those are my 3 goals. And a fourth is that COVID won't mess up my birthday plans in January because I'm going to Cuba. So, all right, I'm turning 30 and I need to be in the sun, That's it.
So this is the end of the Corner Store Talk podcast. I want to thank Nicole Vanterpool for joining the podcast. And yeah, subscribe and follow to the YouTube channel, Corner Store Talk Podcast, and follow the IG, Corner Store Talk _podcast. You want anybody to follow your IG? Want to say it?
Yeah, StoopKid11 on Instagram or Taco About an Adventure. I have a taco blog. I eat a lot of tacos, so I talk about them. Yeah, thanks, Billy, for having me. This is great. Great to virtually see your face.
So, thank you, and